Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's chat, which is on from Green Restoration Ireland and its water table management of peatlands. My name is Francis Fortune, and I'm here with my members and colleagues from the team, Victor and Adrian, one of our farmers within the programme. We're looking at before and after measurements of carbon within the peatland area. So we're actually doing water, soil and air. We're a community and nature based at the core, and what we're doing is on carbon storage, water storage and flood control. We work primarily in the Offaly area, and we have projects going in Mayo and Leitrim. We're working with 23 farmers in the Offaly area on 3 rivers, the Camcourt, Silver and the Brosnia. And these are farms, are grassland peatland farms of beef and dairy. And we're working with the farmers in relation to looking at the whole farm aspect of their carbon emissions. So, as we all know, we're all carbon based as people, and anything that decays emits carbon. But what happens with peatlands when the water is retained, the soil is acidic as a result, and the decay is less, so there's less emissions from carbon. Now, typically for farming, to do their work, the land is drained, and it's this drainage that allows the carbon to be released. Otherwise, it will be held and prevented from decaying by the water and the concentration, acidity of the water. So by draining it, there's larger emissions, more emissions from it as well. What we're looking at, apart from everything that we're doing from hedgerows and things like that, is retaining the carbon by maintaining the water level. So if we had ditch and drains on the perimeters of a person's farm, we're asking them to look at holding on to that water level within the drains, so to a sort of level of, we're talking maybe 40 centimetres below the surface. And at that level, we say there's no change to current farming practice measurements, or means. So there'll be no additional poaching of the land, there'll be no less days that cattle might be able to graze. Aspects what we're doing with that as well is we're encouraging wetland farming as associated with that. So it will be grasses, be wet loving grasses, things like that. So the hope and what we have here is one of our farmers, Adrian, who will talk to you on his experience as a farmer within the project, and just speak to you on the changes to his farm and not, to the work he's done, and to the hopes that he has for that work of the Green Restoration. So it's Green Restoration Ireland and the Farm Carbon EIP, and then we're going to talk to Adrian, and he'll introduce what he does and how things have gone from so far. Thank you.
Thanks, Francie. So I'm the Offaly bogger, I suppose. But yeah, what attracted me to this scheme was the Green Restoration took the whole farm into account. They didn't just take the peat, they took the hedgerows, they took all farming practices into account. And from being here yesterday and the talks that has happened based on food and based on soil and air quality and water quality, it all goes back to the farmer and how the farmer actually farms and what farming practices he uses. And with Green Restoration Ireland, they're doing the calculations and showing us the right farming methods that we need going forward to be able to produce sustainable food and improve our water quality, improve our air, capture carbon, many benefits. And just on Francie saying there, before I went into this scheme, I didn't realise that you can actually raise the water table and still use the land productively. You don't have to drain it to use it. And each year in the scheme, I'm learning a small bit more on what farming practices we have been doing wrong in the past, and it's time to change our farming practices really. And this is what Green Restoration is all about: is getting us to farm correctly, I suppose is the right term for it. There's different terms: organically, regenerative, but it's basically going back to how our grandparents farmed. When you really think about it. Going back to understanding nature, understanding how the water table works, understanding the birds and the bees. That's really what it's all about. Like, without biodiversity, we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't be here ourselves, really and truly. And just on that, I think I've passed you back to Francie to... Sorry, Victor.
Yeah, thanks for that. The reason why I joined Green Restoration Ireland, it was an opportunity to use my background. I'm an environmental health and safety engineer and scientist, and Green Restoration Ireland asked me to help out with regard to their research work. So I'm going to make this as straightforward as possible because I understand the community. I normally talk to students. I'm a lecturer in Technological University of Dublin. But the reason why I was interested in this project is because of how practical it was. Even today, I heard someone saying that all this climate nonsense is rubbish, none of it is existing, what's the point of doing it? I can understand that from my work as a researcher. I can understand all of that. But if you stamp your feet, this stuff that's actually underneath your shoes, that stuff, if it has any peat in it, and I suspect this stuff has, if it's got any peat in it, unless you actually keep it wet, it oxidizes. Those of you who know enough about oxidation, the oxidation process goes on all the time. So once you oxidize the carbon content of peat, it becomes carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide hits the atmosphere. End of story. There's no ifs or buts about that. A lot of people do not believe the science behind it. That's fine, that's okay, I don't have an issue with that. But that's what the scientists know. The issue is, if you actually keep that peat content, that carbon content wet, that oxidation switches off. It's like switching a light on and off. And one of the ways that Ireland can really contribute to the climate crisis, the global warming, whatever you want to call it, is by asking its farmers to consider wetting carbon so that it switches off the carbon dioxide production. And that's what it's all about. That's why the government gave money to Green Restoration Ireland and said, could you please go and try and see if farmers are interested? And Adrian is here as proof that they are interested. It works. The idea that you actually raise the water table slightly and then cut down the amount of carbon dioxide is now proven. We know that. They do it on the continent all the time. It's coming down the line, and the good thing about the Irish government is that they're going to give us an opportunity to actually pay farmers to actually move that water table up and down so that they can control the amount of carbon dioxide that comes off peat soils. It's proven technology. We know it works. We have someone who's actually done it. And this is one of the things I've noticed. I find in these talks there's a lot of, oh, that's not going to work, that's not going to work, and all that sort of stuff. If you are a farmer, just consider this. The soil that you work on, that you actually use all the day, that you actually walk across, that's the stuff that's going to actually make sure that your kids and their kids and their kids are able to work that land. And we now have a technology to say, look, just keep a certain amount of your water table there, don't drain, but if necessary increase it, and you will find that the carbon dioxide will drop and there will be a monetary impact to that. If you go to the UK, they actually have carbon credits for that. So that for each tonne of carbon dioxide that you reduce by raising your water table, they will pay for it. That will come here in time. It's only a matter of time. And that's why we are here. We are trialling this situation. For those individuals who are like, don't believe in the science, that's fine. We don't have an issue with that. But then the only thing I'd say is make up your own mind about the science. It's straightforward. Wet carbon oxidizes, gets given off as carbon dioxide. If you raise the water table, it doesn't happen. The amount that we're actually seeing is the most advantageous is raising water tables on peat soils from where it is at the moment, roughly about -60 on average. Average is a bad number to use, but I'll use it. The average is -60 at the moment. If that went to -40, you'd save about 10 tons of carbon dioxide emissions per hectare per year, and on and on and on and on and on. We know the science. We've seen it. We're actually testing it. One of the things that Green Restoration Ireland do is actually measure the water table during its surveys, and they'll actually see where the water table is and what can and can't be done. Green Restoration Ireland, the first company, community-based cooperative system, will go onto farms and say, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this, and these are the results. And Carbon Farben, the actual project they work for, they've given us money to give to farmers to actually do the work. So I'm going to finish on this because I've taken far too long. Thank you for your time, thank you for your interest, and just remember, Green Restoration Ireland, water table management is the way of the future, and it is extremely necessary to do. And for those of you who don't believe the global warming stuff, did you not hear the news today? July this month that's just gone past, the hottest ever in Ireland, ever. Just remember that. And it's here, man. It's here. You can see the wildfires going off, but like that's a long way. That's Greece, Portugal, Italy, all that sort of stuff. July was the hottest July ever recorded in Ireland. We'll see in a year's time where we are now, but it's not in the world. In the world, though. Yeah, but Ireland, I think it was 2021, 2022, 2023. We know where the dial is going. Dial's going up. Straightforward, dial's going up. The temperature's going up. And because the temperature's going up, we're going to get more and more of this strange weather that we see in Clonmany. That's it, just look. To those who don't want to see it, that's fine. That's not an issue. But we do know that the governments have to do something about that. And Green Restoration Ireland, they will try and do their thing. They will actually come onto the farm, look at it and say, you could do this, and you can actually do carbon dioxide emission reduction. So I've gone on far too long. I was only supposed to be here for 5 minutes. So thank you for your time, and enjoy the day.
Thanks, Victor. Thanks very much. Again, the benefits of the raising the water table as well is obviously we're looking at drought mitigation measures. Adrian himself has 4 ponds at this stage as well. He's looking at it towards for watering aspects, for livestock, things like that as well. So we're looking at the months when July was the wettest as well. So we had that issue with the water, but previous months was quite dry. So at some stage then it would contain moisture level on the land that would actually help. This combined with different multi-species grass swords, which would be a wet loving plant, that would actually help farmers reduce inputs. So there's less cost savings for inputs as well as anything else, so more fodder as well. We're also talking there's a biodiversity kick in that as well, so that actually be improvements in biodiversity in the various areas as well. And again, it would obviously, because of the lack of oxidation, just have extended peat life of the peatlands itself. See some of the principles we can do. I don't know what Adrian wants to talk about some of his land there as well. This is his imagery of that as well. You could do dip wells and the measurements and the ponds as well. For ourselves then after that, if anyone has any questions, we're going to be here after this chat. We're going to be looking over here. If you have any questions, queries, comments, we'd actually appreciate that, because while we're here to talk, we're more here to listen and gain opinion from the farmers as well. So any comment or conversation around that as well. We can be found on the websites as well. I can throw up a slide here, hopefully. And just to help support our work, so we're on Facebook at Green Restoration Ireland, there's Twitter, there's Instagram, LinkedIn. There's also we're hoping to do with, we're back currently with the DAFM and the EIP project schemes through Europe as well. But obviously going forward, we're going to be looking at ways in which people can contribute if they care and help us on that farm as well. As I say, more information at farmcarbon.ie is the EIP, and as I say, Green Restoration Ag Co-op. We can subscribe to the newsletter as well. So any way you can, we can be found. Do come to us later on, and we'll be glad to speak to you. Okay, thank you so very much, and thanks to Jerry for bringing us, and to the Clonmany team as well, and all the organisations, and for Angus and things like that. We'd be happy to take any questions if anyone has any queries, questions, or any comments. Or, I should say, we can come over and chat at the desk, and we'd be happy to do that from there as well. Thank you.
Folks, thank you very much. Thank you for that talk. It's fascinating, and you have a brilliant way of just explaining the basics of carbon, the basics of keeping our land wet when we want to, in a very practical kind of way. And as you say, it is the future, and it's just going to continue and continue. It's a train that's coming down the track. I'd strongly encourage people to talk to the lads and talk to the other contributors in the tent that are here as well, because an awful lot of these environmental changes are coming. Any farmers that I talk to, they know about it, they agree with that. Let's try and make the most out of it for our communities while we're all here.